What's going on, everyone? Pork Chop with you once again, and I have some good news. First, I'm back on YouTube. It's been a while, you haven't seen me. I think the last video that I posted was the Green Bay Marathon in 2017 with my sister. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but you can check that video out here. Anyway, we got some news. So the channel name is no longer my name. It's going by Bear Snake Life. And the reason I'm doing that is for a couple reasons. That's my Instagram handle and kind of where I've been getting some traction and popularity. I'm also an ambassador for the brand Runner, RNNR. They make amazing running hats. They're the best running hats that I've ever had. And I would say that regardless of whether I was an ambassador for them or not. So I want to make things more cohesive and bring everything together. But the main reason I'm making this video today is to kind of give you an idea of where I came from and where I'm going in my fitness journey, and kind of how I got into running and what that's looked like over the past couple of years. So starting back in 2014, I was incredibly overweight. I was 360 pounds, and that doesn't look all that pretty. I was 28 years old. I could barely walk a quarter mile without my legs hurting. I was out of breath. I wasn't living life. I was just giving into my gluttony and eating whatever I wanted and just becoming fat and happy, even though I was completely miserable. So I decided things needed to change. I started walking, started eating healthier, started limiting my portions. And while I was doing that, my sister reached out to me and told me that she was gonna start running. The reason she was gonna start running is to show her kids that you can do hard things. You can do things that people don't necessarily think you're capable of, or tell you that you can't. And for her, that was running. So she was never considered herself a runner. That was nothing that she wanted to do. People told her because of her knees and stuff, she couldn't do it. And so she started. She started with the Couch 5K program, and in my mind, you know, that sibling rivalry, I was like, if she can do it, I can do it. So I started running. My wife thought it was gonna last maybe 2 weeks, but I made a goal for myself to run a marathon before I was 30. First couple years, weight slowly coming off, starting my running journey, do a couple 5Ks. And I'm like, you know what? I wanna do a half marathon. So I talked to my sister and I talked her into doing the Green Bay Half Marathon in 2015. So we trained up for that and we ran that. It was a really good experience, but I was miserable. You know, I was still overweight. It was really hard. But for my sister, it was nice and easy because she was training in Colorado, coming down in elevation for the run in Green Bay. And at mile 10, she's like, hey, all we have left is a 5K. You do 5Ks all the time. You got this. And I shot her a look that would kill. I was so pissed off. I looked at her and I said, you know what? How about you go back to Colorado and you run a half marathon at your elevation and see how you feel then. And that's what she did. A couple weeks later, she ran another half marathon, took a couple minutes off of her time and set a new PR. And at the finish line, she collapsed and was immediately taken to the hospital. Essentially, the electrical signals of her heart, instead of going down one path and just going to where it should have, she had an extra path, so it would just sit there and loop, and her heart rate was stuck over 200 beats per minute. So they went in, they did an ablation, they got that corrected, and she was cleared to run again. So that brings us to January of 2016. She'd just been cleared to run. We go up there to visit. We decide to do the Manitou Incline after a 5K, and we made it all the way up to the top of the Manitou Incline, all the way back to the bottom, and 10 feet from the parking lot, she slipped on the ice and shattered her leg. Her left leg below the knee just twisted and snapped, both bones. She was a little bit pissed off that she couldn't come back and do Green Bay, mainly because they were giving out medals that were in the shape of a pie. So you had to come back 3 years in a row to complete the medals. So the first year was 2015. This would have been the second year. This is the medal right there. hanging up portion of the medal from 2015. So my sister shattered her leg. We go up to Green Bay. Even though she's not running, we still have an amazing time. Her husband came with, and we went to Madison. We were hanging out. It was a really good time. And this is where I got the nickname Bear Snake. So I've always been called Jake the Snake. My brother-in-law's called me Snakers. For a while, my nickname was Pork Chop or Faithful PC. But after this day, it transitioned to Bear Snake. And I don't know why, but I feel like that fits me a little bit better. Anyway, we were at a restaurant and we were talking about a TV show where they had to guess what animal was in a cage in the dark. He kept saying, "It's a bear, it's a snake, it's a bear, it's a snake." And so I replied, "Even worse, it's a bear snake." And as soon as I said that, my brother-in-law just loved it. And so that's what he called me from then on, was Bear Snake. So that's how I got that name, and that's how my channel name came to be. Fast forward a little bit, in June of 2016, I ran Grandma's Marathon, and that was my first marathon ever. I wanted to get one done before I turned 30, and I turned 30 in November of 2016. So making it under the wire, good marathon. The problem was, it was the hottest day on record. It was 75 degrees, 99% humidity, not a cloud in the sky. And we were running one direction for 26.2 miles. The sun was on this side, so my entire left side of my body got burned. It was black flag conditions, so if you stopped or sat down or stepped off the course at all, they would pull you and you couldn't finish. I was feeling really good up until mile 14, and then I started to get a cramp in my left leg, and that kind of shook me a little bit. But I was okay. I kept moving forward one step at a time, and I finished. Even though my wheels fell off and it was a completely awful day, I had finished the marathon, which was my ultimate goal. And what I told myself was, if the wheels completely fall off, I want to finish in under 6 hours. And I did. I finished in 5 hours, 58 minutes, and 9 seconds. I was pretty happy about that. So moving into 2017, I was probably in the best shape that I had been in a very long time, weighed around 278 pounds, and just was hitting the runs hard. I was working out a lot in that time, so I was in really good shape. My fitness was awesome. And I talked my brother-in-law into doing the 5K at Green Bay in 2017. And he agreed, and I asked him what he wanted to accomplish, and he said a sub 24-minute 5K. I was like, dude, that's damn near impossible, but if that's what you want to do, let's do that. So that's how I started training, was for a sub 24-minute 5K. At that point, my fastest 5K was 30 minutes, just sub 30 minutes, and I barely broke it at that point. During my training for the sub 24, I started getting heart palpitations. And because of my family's history with heart problems, I went and checked it out. My doctor told me to immediately stop doing anything until we got this figured out. And so that was probably 2 months before the race. And then I finally got a stress test the day that we left for the Green Bay 5K and half marathon. And I finished up my stress test, got on the plane. I wasn't cleared to run, but my brother-in-law in his training came to realize that 24 minutes was completely ridiculous for him to try to achieve. So he decided he wanted to do sub 30 minutes. I was like, oh, 30 minutes, I can do that easy, no problem, let's do that. So I ran with him, got him close to the finish line, and I started having those heart palpitations. So I dropped back and told him just to keep going. And he did. He finished in under 30 minutes, and I came in at like 30:13. So all in all, it was pretty good. The next day, I then ran the half marathon with my sister, because she was cleared to, well, technically she wasn't cleared to run. The doctor said she would never run again. But again, the reason why she started running was because people told her she couldn't do it. She's gonna do it. So we did the half marathon, even though she was still kind of injured. It was good. And the next day I got a phone call from my cardiologist saying it was all clear. I have a minor defect in my heart, nothing that would cause me any danger, just more of an annoyance. Every once in a while I'll get those heart palpitations. Not a big deal. But after that, the damage had been done. I stopped doing any physical activity, and the Texas summer killed my motivation to get back out there. So I just started eating and gaining weight again. I wasn't working out, I was sedentary in my job. I was eating crap, Whataburger all the time. Fast forward to 2021, my sister decides that she wants to run a marathon before she turned 41. So I told her if she trained for it, I would run it with her. Even though I was incredibly out of shape, back up to 350 pounds, like it wasn't a good situation. But I figured that would give me the motivation that I needed to get my health back in line. So I did all my training, she trained for it, my wife trained to run it with us, and a couple weeks before the event, I realized that I was not in good enough shape and I was going to not be able to make the cutoff in time. So I unfortunately had to drop back to the half marathon, which was my slowest half marathon that I ever run. It was incredibly awful. But my sister, she finished her marathon and my wife finished with her. And after that, I was like, you know what? I gotta do something. I gotta get my health back in check. So with the help of my doctors, I, at that point, had been diagnosed with diabetes. I got on some medication for that. And I really was like, I need to change my lifestyle completely. So I changed what I was eating. I ate less. I was eating less carbs, less sugars, less grains, and focusing on proteins and fats. And the weight just started to come off. So I was like, okay, now I want to start running again. So I signed up for the 3M Half Marathon, which I had run at the beginning of 2022. And I wanted to do it in 2023 to figure out where I was as far as my fitness, because I was lighter, I was running faster. I just wanted to see what I could do. So I ended up running sub 3 hours for that, which took about 40 minutes off the time that I had done previously. So that made me feel real good. And if you want to see a comparison between 2022 and 2023, here's that picture here. Not pretty. So after that race, my sister was feeling so good. I was like, you know what? I want to do another marathon. You've done one, my wife's done two. I can't let her beat me, so I need to do another one. And my sister, who had sworn never to do another marathon, decided she wanted to do one as well. So we signed up for the Tunnel Light Marathon in North Bend, Washington in September of this year. So that's what I'm training for. That's what I'm currently working towards. I started this year after 3M by building up my base, just doing consistent running and keeping my diet in check. And now I'm officially in marathon training. We're in the second week of marathon training. And the biggest factor that has helped me improve so much so quickly is zone 2 heart rate training. So for me, my zone 2 heart rate is between 133 and 146. If I stay in that zone, I get the most benefit for my aerobic endurance. And I have seen my runs become easier, my heart rate keeps going down, I can run a little bit faster. Now obviously the heat's coming in Texas, so that's kind of killing my zone 2 heart rate training. I have to walk a lot, but that's the whole point, is the more if you do 80% of your training in zone 2, it's gonna benefit you so much more than trying to go out and run fast every single time. There's more people on YouTube that can say it more eloquently and give you more in-depth information on that if you're wanting to figure that out. But during this training, I want to kind of document what I'm doing and just some of the runs, some of the races that I'm doing to lead up to the marathon. I think it would be fun to kind of show you guys some of the destination races that we're going for. One of them is through a canyon in Spearfish, South Dakota. So I think that would be pretty cool. And then obviously the marathon in North Bend, Washington is going to be absolutely gorgeous. They call it the Tunnel Light Marathon because you actually run through an old train tunnel that's 2.5 miles long. So that's going to be pretty cool. Really looking forward to that. But why am I doing all this? And because my health was so bad for so long, I actually got a wake-up call in June of 2022. My mom came to visit, and her health was so bad that she couldn't even walk 20 feet to an elevator without starting to dry heave and gag and just be completely exhausted, and it was awful. And I wish I could do something to help her, and then I realized I can't help her if I don't help myself first. So that's what motivated me. I want to be that type of person that at 75 years old is still climbing mountains. I want to be running races. I don't want to let my health go and become incapable of, walking 20 feet. And, my parents have their health issues, and it's hard to get going. It's hard to get that motivation to start moving again. And because of that, they just kind of let themselves go. And now it's hard for them to get back to where they were. So I wanted to start a little bit younger and get back out there. So that's my motivation. That's why I'm doing this. I hope you guys will follow along. If you aren't, please subscribe down below. And if you like it, leave a like on there and share with your friends. Who knows? I want to try to impact people. I want to tell my story and see if that motivates anybody else to get out there and do something that they want to do. So come along on this journey, and I'll see you guys next time.